Booyah, Recruiting Nation. Welcome to episode 4 of Uncharted Waters with the one, the only, Admiral James Waters. Chief Totemay here, excited as we continue on this journey to find out the best ways to continue making mission and doing what we do best, putting people in the Navy.
Absolutely.
Sir, happy to have you back on your show.
Yeah, it's great to be back on my show.
So, sir, we had some recent discussions, and we've seen some of your initiatives for especially the 730-60. Sir, do you foresee anything else coming down the pipeline? I'm going to ask the Admiral, give us a secret here about some things that may be coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're working on a new set or additional things that we can, really impact Recruiting Nation. I talked in a previous podcast about the transition team made up of some of our best recruiters, some of our best CRFers, NTAG COs, region folks, and headquarters folks. That team, I'm keeping that team.
Copy.
We're renaming it from transition team to innovation team, and they're continuing to generate ideas that are intended to impact Recruiting Nation. So, as an example of a few things that I expect to sign out here very shortly, I intend to eliminate the requirement for a cursive signature, which I think has caused some angst because kids today don't all learn how to write in cursive.
True.
They print their name and then somehow we get in this do loop, and that's just silly. Right, so we're going to do that. We're working to expand nuke field HARP duty as you finish at prototype, rather than immediately go into the fleet, sending some back to their hometowns for 2 to 4 weeks to go talk in their schools about the pipeline and their experiences to date. I think that's going to be great. Picking up my phone here for a couple other things. Let's see, removing the requirement to print PATE, planner, and app log monthly, and removing paper vehicle log requirements are just a few. There's a number of other things that we're going after, and we're not forgetting about the things that we're already in the 30 and 60 categories as we're approaching those, the first of those right now. We've moved some of the 30-day things into the 7-day bin because it's about where it is right now.
Booyah.
So pretty excited about that.
So I know the field loves the removal of administrative burdens. So again, thank you for that, sir.
Absolutely.
Sir, a lot of things started to change once you went on your Chicago trip. Can you speak a little bit about how that trip changed the landscape of things?
Yeah, so let's see, 2 weeks ago, I spent Monday and Tuesday of that week in Chicago. It was my first trip as Commander Navy Recruiting Command, and the first place that I visited was MEPCOM, so the commander of all the MEPs. As an 06 Army officer, a colonel, and I spoke with her, and then I sat down with her team, so her two subordinate region commanders, as well as her staff, and really dug into what their mission is, what their perspectives of the Navy were, and then I visited Chicago MEPS and was able to really, and it was just me, the commander, the chief medical officer, and their chief of administration that runs sort of the day-to-day ops of the place. So I was able to dig in, and I actually saw what the CMO did in Genesis as part of the pre-review that happens ahead of candidates coming in. So what I took from that were a few things. They highlighted to me that the Navy was way out of the norm relative to the other services on the number of referrals that we were asking for. So that's one of those things that made me go, wonder why that is. And so that was one. I think the fact that we weren't using Genesis to its full potential. And so for those that don't understand, MHS Genesis, which is the electronic health record system, in and of itself really shows what the military knows about you medically. However, it also is connected through what's called HIE, Health Information Exchange, such that it can reach out into the electronic records anywhere in the United States, and basically anytime anyone has had an encounter with a clinician in their lifetime, and for people like me, back to when electronic records started, right? But for the kids that we're typically bringing in the military, it's their whole life. Any encounter is known. So for the recruiters out there, there is no hiding any background, and this is not to imply recruiters are hiding anything, but they can make clear to candidates, there's no point in saying it didn't happen because we're going to see it. The chief medical officer is going to see it. So I learned a lot about how that all worked, which caused me to come back and think real hard about how we were doing business. The other thing I got out of the discussion with the commander of MEPCOM is that the chief medical officer at a MEPS is evaluating the person's condition throughout their entire life against a DoD standard and just calling balls and strikes. That it's really a commander's risk decision to decide whether the person, the person when they go to boot camp and serve in their first enlistment, can they make it through that based on the best evidence that we have? In the past, before Genesis, we were taking those risks without really understanding what the conditions were. Now that we do understand, it's up to the service to have a process in place to ensure that we can evaluate that risk. And I think our focus was much more on sort of very granular medical assessment rather than a whole person risk assessment. And so I've flipped that script.
Copy.
And so I did that 2-day trip, got back late Tuesday night. Really, it was Wednesday morning because the flight was delayed. And then came in at 0700 on Wednesday and started battle stations and really took everything I learned from Chicago to help roll that out to approve medical waivers from that risk perspective.
Copy. Well, sir, it's been phenomenal. Sir, now we have a game changer. Can you speak a little bit about the Future Sailor Prep Course Academic?
Yeah, absolutely. So Future Sailor Prep Course Academic takes Cat 4 sailors, so sailors that had scored in the 30th percentile or below, down to the 10th percentile on the AFQT, and runs them through in 3-week cycles, training course at boot camp prior to beginning basic military training with instructors in the types of things that the AFQT is examining: English, math, reading comprehension, those kinds of things, with the intention of getting them to a place where they can retake the ASVAB, improve their scores, and then improve their opportunities in the Navy. And really what we're doing here is taking young Americans and granting them opportunities that their upbringing may not have provided them, right? So these are kids whose schools may not have given them the education and the tools they need. The Navy is doing that, right? And so one of the things, though, that we found is sometimes they get up there and they don't really understand what Future Sailor Prep Course Academic is doing for them. If you improve your score, you provide additional ratings that you're now qualified for. What I would ask Recruiting Nation is ensure that those young people that you know are going to end up in the Future Sailor Prep Course Academic really understand that's a 3-week course. It could be another 3 weeks depending on their initial performance. But it's really about opportunity, that they will have more choices, more things that they can do, and we will work to reclassify them at the end of Future Sailor Prep Course Academic. It's not a bonus 3 weeks of boot camp. It's a focused training time to provide additional opportunity. There's material that Admiral Mattingly has put out from Naval Services Training Command that can provide insight into exactly what is going on there. They interview the folks that are in the course. And then the other thing that I've recently done is added an enlistment bonus for performance on the AFQT by sailors in Future Sailor Prep course. So if they do score 10 points, then they would get a $2,000 bonus.
Whew.
If they score 20, they would get a $4,000 bonus.
Sir, can you repeat that again?
If they score a 10-point improvement at Future Sailor Prep Course Academic, they would get a $2,000 bonus, right? And so the intent there is to incentivize that performance so that it expands their opportunity. And then for the Navy, the return is, if we can get them from Cat 4 into Cat 3, the Department of Defense allows us to count them as a Cat 3, which opens more opportunities for Cat 4s to come in and gives us more Cat 3s.
Love it. Love it. So, sir, speaking to the Enterprise, morale in the field is at an all-time high. Do we have a plan to keep our recruiters motivated and to keep this morale train going, sir?
Oh, absolutely. We are rolling out new changes. I told you we're keeping the innovation team together to ensure that the ideas that keep rolling in, the CO's inbox, we continue to get those and act on those things. I talked in the last episode about some of the answers to the questions that have come in. Some things we've rolled directly into action. And some things we've already acted on, and it was just a time lag from when that thing came in, because we're moving fast here at NRC headquarters. And I am certainly biased for action. If a suggestion comes in that has promise, I am willing to try it.
Copy. So, sir, to speak a little bit about mitigation of some of the hiccups that we get in recruiting, just to make sure recruiters are always trained to the top T to ensure we're putting the best and the brightest in the Navy. Do you currently have a plan to ensure that we have a continuous streamline of training happening in the field? Yeah,
so part of that is the initial training that happens as they come through NORU, the orientation training. But to get to your real question, is this sort of continuing training program? I will say there's work to be done there. Some of it is revealed in the NIT as it goes around and does that inspections of each NTAG. We're identifying where training deficiencies are and then providing the resources to do those trainings, to do that training. The other thing that we've done is taken those commands that have effective training programs and then spread their expertise, like what they've developed, to all of the NTAGs to give them an opportunity. One example is in Ohio River Valley, they have a recruiting boot camp that they do, a recruiter boot camp for their new recruiters, where they take them all the way through actually prospecting and actually communicating the value of the Navy and seeking to gain leads and contacts in doing in the field prospecting, demonstrated, and then they do it, right? Because some of the hardest part of recruiting is clearly understanding that in order to be successful in this organization, you have to be massively unsuccessful. Now, what do I mean by that? That means that you may have to make 100 phone calls to have one appointment. So if you get one appointment, that means you've had 99 no's, right? But if you get that appointment that becomes the contract, you've been successful, right? And so in any organization like we're in, but in recruiting in particular, I just want to encourage all of the recruiters out there that I understand how hard it is for those of us that have been in the I am a successful person business for a long time, that part of the shtick, part of how we operate is large amounts of non-success. I made 1,000 attempts and I only talked to 10 people. I talked to 10 people and 9 of them said no. But one of them's in front of me right now, and I'm establishing a trust-based relationship with them in order for them to understand the Navy and join us as a brother or sister in arms.
So in closing, sir, my last question, do you foresee a plan to potentially leverage technology and innovation to allow us to bring in some of the best and the brightest that are currently fleeing to other Fortune 500 companies rather than joining the United States Navy?
Yeah, I think some of what we use today with Salesforce is helpful, but Salesforce is more of a tracking tool. Mm-hmm. I think being able to leverage social media in a way that can better scrape the data from social media to identify the smart young kid that's living in his parents' basement, that we can potentially provide more of an opportunity, more of a family to. I think that's an area that there's potential to grow. Yeah. I think another area that we need to think about is how are we using technology for our own people, right? Because I believe that if we could better connect and establish better connectivity between the recruiting force and provide more of the value proposition of Culture of Excellence 2.0 directly to people using the recruiters, using technology, then the second order effect of that will be increased performance of the basic functions of recruiting because we're able to establish a better, more inclusive culture.
Ooh-yah, ooh-yah. Well, there you have it. Sir, any last remarks for episode 4?
I am just so proud of Recruiting Nation, and I am relishing every minute in command of Navy Recruiting Command. So thank you.
Ooh-yah. Well, there you have it. Closing out episode 4 of Uncharted Waters with the one, the only Admiral James Waters. Chief Totemate, signing out.